Every day, we become more and more desensitized to the sounds around us. But we never stop to think of how they might affect us, both physically and psychologically. Your brain is made up of billions of brain cells called neurons. And your neurons, just like the rest of your body, use electricity to communicate with each other. As you can probably imagine, these millions of neurons sending signals all at once produces an enormous amount of electrical activity in your brain. And this can be actually detected using medical equipment like electroencephalography, or the EEG for short, which measures electricity levels over areas of your scalp. When you graph the electrical activity of your brain using an EEG, you generate what is called a brainwave pattern, which is a wave pattern because of its cyclic wave-like nature. Remember waves? Dr. Agnes Moxie, nuclear physicist and totally boss physics professor, covered a section on sound waves. In the reading, it stated that a sound wave traveling through the ear canal vibrates the eardrum, which vibrates 3 tiny bones, which in turn vibrate the fluid-filled cochlea. Inside the cochlea, tiny hair cells convert the pulse into an electrical signal to the brain. Basically a super sciencey way of saying that sound waves have to travel a significant amount through a well-working, healthy ear canal to have an influence on the brain. There are 4 possible brainwave patterns. Number 1. Beta. Measuring from 14 to 30 Hz, they are supposedly the highest frequency brainwave pattern. Under gamma, which supposedly measure from 30 to 100 Hz, but those are less understood. Unless it's your first time doing E or tripping balls and guessing. The beta wave pattern is where we are at this moment, some of us more than others, awake, conscious, alert, and concentrated. Number 2. Alpha. Measuring from 8 to 13.9 Hz, this brainwave pattern is found in people who are at a very relaxed state. Think about that moment right before you fall asleep, or right when you wake up for the day. Or if you do any yoga, think of Shavasana. Number 3. Theta. Measuring from 4 to 7.9 Hz. If you're here, you're dreaming. Literally, you're dreaming. This is the brain activity of someone well into REM sleep. There's an increased production of catecholamines in the brain, which are vital for learning and memory, and it's said that you retain a lot of learned material while in this state. And lastly, there's delta, measuring at 3.9 to 0.1 Hz. This is dreamless sleep, like unconscious, like you're knocked the fuck out unconscious. It's said to be deep, trance-like, and non-physical. Loss of body awareness. This is also where the human growth hormone is released. So now we know where babies spend much of their early youth. So, how do we use sound to go from beta to alpha and so on? 2 words, brainwave entrainment. Brainwave entrainment is any method that causes your brainwave frequencies to fall into step with a specific frequency. It's based on the concept that the human brain has a tendency to change its dominant EEG frequency toward the frequency of a dominant external stimulus, in this case, sound or music. The form of brainwave entertainment is binaural beats. These are a little tricky to explain, so bear with me. The way that these work is that 2 tones close in frequency generate a beat frequency at the difference of the frequencies. What does that mean? For example, a 495 Hz audio tone and a 505 Hz audio tone, whether overlaid in music or in a sound frequency, will produce a 10 Hz beat, roughly in the middle of the alpha brain wave range. Why are these 2 different audio tones, and couldn't they just be one 10 Hz beat playing through? Not exactly, because the human ear cannot hear sounds below 20 Hz. Binaural beats occur due to the interference of waves. A fluctuation in the loudness of the combined sounds is heard. The brainwave category you could potentially fall into depends on the frequency difference of the beats. Okay, cool. But why does this happen? It can all be summed up in one sentence. The brain matches the physical properties of sound very closely. This is to say that if I was rich or somehow well-connected enough to borrow a piece of brain-scanning equipment, I could show you what my brain sounds like after listening to one of my favorite songs, for example. Studies show that the playback of my brainwaves would sound almost exactly like the song. Here's the evidence itself from Dr. Nina Kraus, professor of neurobiology and physiology at Northwestern University.
So here is the sound wave, and here is the brain wave, and you can see they physically look like each other. And if I could have the sound now, this is the speech sound, Da, would you play it, please? You got to hit the icon.
Da.
Yeah, and then hit the guy next to it.
When it comes to how sound affects our mood, that's more related to our auditory cortex, the part of the brain that processes sound, and what has already been programmed into our brains throughout our lives. This varies from person to person, of course, but there are some generalizations. For example, movie soundtracks. When something is suspenseful, it isn't the scene that tells you so, it's the music. There's a formula to the way soundtracks are created to serve as a guide, telling you what to feel throughout the film. How is that scientifically possible? The brain is designed to learn by association. If this, then that. This is why noise on a chalkboard freaked you out, not only because of the sound, but because of the association with the feeling beneath your fingernails. Music works by subtly toying with our expected associations, enticing us to make predictions about what note will come next, and then confronting us with our prediction errors. This is also the formula to tearjerkers. A note called the appoggiatura is a note that clashes with a steady melody, but resolves with another note to bring you back to the song. The absence of the correct note moves you, and the return of the correct note calms you. So again, what is the science behind this? Scientists from the University of London measured the brainwaves of 20 subjects while they listened to various psalms. It turned out that the unexpected notes, pitches that violated the previous melodic pattern, triggered an interesting sequence of neural events and a spike in brain activity. Basically, the unexpected pitches triggered the most brain activity, synchronizing the activity of brain regions involved in motor movement and emotion. And that's why certain melodies make you walk faster, and others help you calm down. As for why people sing at funerals, tell me that is not some of the most uplifting shit you've heard today. This concludes my presentation. Thanks for listening.